Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's ViDevo. This morning we are in Mark chapter 5, picking up where we left off last time, starting in verse 21, which says this. When Jesus had again crossed over by boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered around him while he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue leaders named Jairus came, and when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet. He pleaded earnestly with him, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so she'll be healed and live." So Jesus went with him. A large crowd followed and pressed around him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I will be healed. Immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. At once Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" "You see the people crowding around you," his disciples answered, "and yet you can ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear, told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." You know, if there's anything that I hope we'll get out of this passage this morning, it's this. Jesus is our healer, and not just in terms of physical ailments either. I mean, yes, this woman certainly had a physical ailment that needed healing, didn't she? As Mark tells us, she'd had it for 12 years. That's a long time. Think about how much has happened in your life in the past 12 years. Though because of the kind of physical ailment she had, the ailment itself wouldn't have been all she was dealing with for those 12 years. In Jewish culture, she would have been considered unclean because of this particular ailment, which means that she wouldn't have been allowed to go certain places or do certain things or be around certain people. One reason she's so afraid to admit she touched Jesus is if she was unclean in that moment, then touching a rabbi like Jesus was a huge, huge no-no. Basically, she would have been left out a lot in life on top of the physical ailment that she had. The physical ailment, which itself was also probably pretty scary, right? Because it wouldn't go away. Despite, as Mark says, spending all she had on doctors, she just got worse and worse and worse. Which, I'm just guessing, if you factor all of that in together, it probably means she was also dealing with a lot of emotional pain and mental stress on top of the financial stress and the physical pain. But I love that she didn't give up, and that whenever it was she heard about this Jesus guy, she figures, well, he's healing people, so maybe if I just touch the edge of his robe and it works and she's healed. And I love that Jesus stops to talk to her. Because, I mean, he's on an urgent call here, and we'll plan to see how that turns out in our next video, but Jesus pauses and waits for her to come forward. Because, it seems to me, he wants her to know that to him, she's not just some nameless, faceless person in a crowd. She's not someone that has to just get healed and then slip away, even if she wanted to be that kind of person. No, he wants her to know she's loved. She's valued. He calls her daughter. I love that. And he lets her know he's really happy with her for her act of faith. And he's glad to help. Which tells me that when you or I are dealing with emotional pain of any kind, we don't have to hide it or deny that it's there or try to fix it ourselves or whatever else, man. We can do what this woman did. And in prayer, bring all of our pain to Jesus. And when we do, we may just find he has something similar to say to us that he said to her, if we'll just take the time to let him do it.